Hello, this is going to be a video on setting the cutting blade. This is the cutting unit. I've taken it out of a machine and mounted it in this, which allows me to open and close the air pressure. So I can do this. First, for putting the blades in, you want to put them in and push back and to the left. Then tighten the screws. Same with the stationary blade. Put it on, slide it back into the left. You want to make sure it's resting against these back plates. If there's a gap there, over time, it will start to slide back. Now that I've replaced the blades, I'm going to move it forward. Right now, I'm in course adjustment. These two knobs are loose, so as I turn these, the blade will move forward very quickly. So now, I'm going to move the blade, and I can see there's about a millimeter gap or more right now. I'm not going to rotate the knobs while the blade is facing the other blade. You can damage your blade very easily doing that. I will move it out of the way, start to move it forward. Then I will move this down to see how close I'm getting. And I'm getting pretty close. Oh, and now I can see I've gone too far. I'm now making contact on the left side and also making contact on the right side. Since the blade is at a slight angle, it'll only be touching on one side at a time. So now I can bring this back. Now I'm not making contact. So now that I know I'm close, I'm going to tighten these two knobs, which will then switch it over to fine adjustment. So now it'll be harder to turn these knobs, and I'll be able to move it smaller amounts easier. Something you can do now is you can kind of judge how close the two sides are with film. It's making a pretty similar noise as I go from side to side, and the resistance is similar. So I know I'm in a similar position for each of these. As I rotate one, I might move one side forward a millimeter or half a millimeter, and I might move the right side a tenth of that. So maybe you might, for every millimeter you move over on the left side by turning this left knob, you might move the right side a little bit. So you don't want to just set one side perfect and then move over to the other one. You want to make adjustments to both as you're going along. So now I know I'm close. I got to get some of this play out of the knobs. There is, every time you switch from one direction to the other, you have to re-engage the threads. So there's a little bit of wiggle room. Counterclockwise will move the blade forward. Clockwise will pull it away. And so now I'm going to be carefully moving the blade out of the way, moving them closer, and bringing them in until I start making contact. Now I've gone too far on this side, so I need to go back. And this is where the film can start becoming handy. So I can feel which side has a little more resistance. And I'm making very small adjustments to these as I'm moving forward. So I'm starting to get contact right around there, and I'm finishing my contact over here. So I'm starting to get the sliding motion of contact from left sliding across to the right as I rotate it. And you can actually hear a fairly faint clicking sound. If it's too loud, you are too close. So now I will take some film, put it in the gap, and I will test it. So I just ran it through. It's cutting through the front layer and cutting through most of the pouch, but it's leaving a little bit on the sides. But it is tearing very easy, which means I'm very close. Now, one of the differences with this than in an actual situation is that this blade is a used blade. So with a brand new blade, you can get this sound very faint. With an older used blade, you might not get as smooth a cuts, so it's going to be a little bit louder. We're still missing just a tiny bit on the right side, so I'm going to bring it in a very small amount. We're still missing a little section. That's too much. So there is a little bit of a dull section in the center of the blade that's making this fairly difficult to get a great cut going. It would appear this blade needs to be sharpened. But I'm getting a great cut on that side. And just there's like a dull section that's not really cutting. So I am going to bring this a little louder than I would want it to be. Now it's cutting. So I would say this is a blade that probably needs to be sharpened. You should be able to get a much quieter sound than this. But it's still not taking too much effort for me to just with one hand rotate this through. If you find yourself getting there and needing to really crank on it to push it through, that's a problem. So the final thing you would do this actual cutting unit does not have, I'm going to show you on this cutting unit here. The last thing you do is last thing you will do is move these in by hand. These are essentially a back for this so that it doesn't slide back over time by rotating the knobs. So by hand, you'll loosen the nut, tighten the screw, tighten the nut, and then you don't want to tighten this because it'll push it forward, changing your cut distance. So you want to tighten the nut. So you put this into place, tighten the nut, then this is securely holding the sliding part of the blade in place so it doesn't slide back over time. Okay.